you'll be pleased to know this is the last time I'm hosting these awards, so I don't care anymore. I'm joking. I never did. NBC clearly don't care either. 5th time. So, I mean, Kevin Hart was fired from the Oscars because of some offensive tweets. Hello?
Gervais pulled no punches, exposing the absurdity of their double standards, and it's a moment that continues to resonate as woke culture gets more out of hand by the day. Ricky Gervais and the Golden Globes 2020 monologue, a brutal takedown Hollywood deserved. It was the night Hollywood had dreaded, the moment the mask slipped off, and the self-congratulatory bubble of the entertainment elite was burst wide open. Ricky Gervais, armed with nothing more than his razor-sharp wit and a willingness to say what everyone else was too scared to, took the stage at the 2020 Golden Globes and delivered a monologue so devastating, so uncomfortable, that it left the room full of A-listers squirming in their designer seats. From the very first sentence, it was clear that Gervais wasn't there to play nice. He wasn't interested in the usual Hollywood backpatting, where overpaid actors and producers bask in the glow of their own self-righteousness while preaching to the rest of us about how to live our lives. No, Gervais came with a mission to expose the hypocrisy, the performative activism, and the sheer absurdity of a world that demands we take them seriously when they are, in fact, the last people who should be lecturing anyone about anything. If you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, Gervais warned, before delivering the ultimate knockout punch. You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. That single line sent shockwaves through the room. The laughter was nervous. Some applauded. Others looked visibly uncomfortable, unsure of how to react. But what was clear was that Gervais had done what no one else in Hollywood would dare. He called them out for their shallow, out-of-touch virtue signaling. These are the same people who fly private jets to climate change conferences, who live in mansions while decrying wealth inequality, and who lecture the public on justice while turning a blind eye to their own industry's deep-seated corruption. Gervais wasn't there to pander. He was there to tear down the house of cards that Hollywood had built, brick by brick. Hollywood's silence on Epstein, the scandal no one wanted to acknowledge. But if you thought Gervais was going to stop there, think again. He wasn't just interested in poking fun at Hollywood's political grandstanding. He wanted to peel back the layers of its hypocrisy, revealing just how rotten the core had become. Case in point, Jeffrey Epstein. While the world was reeling from the scandal surrounding Epstein's grotesque crimes,
and Jeffrey Epstein was found dead,
Hollywood had been eerily silent. Epstein had rubbed shoulders with some of the most powerful people in the entertainment industry, and yet no one wanted to talk about it. No one dared to acknowledge the elephant in the room, except Gervais. You could binge-watch the entire first season of Netflix's Afterlife. That's a show about a man who wants to kill himself because his wife dies of cancer, and it's still more fun than this. Spoiler alert. Season 2 is on the way, so in the end he obviously didn't kill himself. Just like Jeffrey Epstein. Shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care. In that moment, Gervais exposed the selective morality of Hollywood, a community that claims to care about justice and fairness, yet was more than happy to look the other way when one of its own was implicated in one of the most heinous crimes imaginable. Epstein had been a friend to many in that room, and Gervais wasn't going to let them get away with pretending otherwise. The silence that followed his joke was deafening. The awkwardness in the room was palpable. Gervais had held up a mirror to Hollywood, and the reflection was ugly. Leonardo DiCaprio and his private jet activism. But Gervais wasn't done yet. He wasn't just going to stop at Epstein. He was going to take aim at one of the most beloved causes in Hollywood, climate change. But the way Hollywood elites go about it, take Leonardo DiCaprio for example. DiCaprio has made climate activism a central part of his public persona. He speaks at global summits, he campaigns for environmental causes, and he's always quick to lecture the rest of us on the need to reduce our carbon footprints. But here's the kicker. While DiCaprio is busy telling us all to do our part to save the planet, he's flying around the world on private jets, burning more fossil fuels in a single flight than most people do in an entire year. Gervais saw the hypocrisy and called it out, saying, Leonardo DiCaprio attended the premiere of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and by the end, his date was too old for him. Sure, the punchline was about DiCaprio's well-known preference for younger women, but the real sting was in the setup. Gervais was highlighting the absurdity of celebrities like DiCaprio, who claim to care so deeply about the environment while living lifestyles that are anything but eco-friendly. DiCaprio, the man who flew 8,000 miles on a private jet to pick up an environmental award, is the poster boy for Hollywood's hypocrisy on climate change. These are the same people who tell the rest of us to cut back, to make sacrifices, to live more sustainably, while they continue to indulge in the kind of excess that is completely out of reach for the average person. Gervais wasn't just making fun of DiCaprio. He was exposing the entire charade of celebrity climate activism.
Critical. If your whole thing is, stay out of my life.
It's performative, it's hypocritical, and it's exactly the kind of empty virtue signaling that Hollywood thrives on. Performative activism and the Oscars, a platform for woke grandstanding. It's not just at the Golden Globes where celebrities love to grandstand, though. The Oscars have become a veritable stage for woke celebrities to express their political opinions, opinions that often feel more like sermons than acceptance speeches. In 2020, the same year as Gervais' devastating Golden Globes performance, Joaquin Phoenix took the stage at the Oscars to lecture the audience about the treatment of cows in the dairy industry. Now, let's be clear, there's nothing wrong with advocating for animal rights. But coming from a millionaire actor who has never had to struggle to put food on the table, it rings more than a little hollow. Gervais had preemptively skewered this kind of performative activism, mocking celebrities who use their platforms to lecture the public on issues they themselves know little about. It's easy to tell people to reduce their carbon footprints or change their dietary habits when you're living in a mansion and can afford to shop at expensive organic stores. But for the average person, these kinds of lifestyle changes are not just impractical, they're impossible. Hollywood celebrities like to pretend that they're in touch with the struggles of everyday people, but the reality is that they're living in a completely different world, a world where private jets and designer clothes are the norm, and where the consequences of the policies they advocate for never seem to touch their own lives. Gervais' point was crystal clear. These celebrities are completely out of touch with reality. They live in a bubble of wealth and privilege, yet they have the audacity to lecture the rest of us on how to live. It's hypocrisy at its finest, and Gervais wasn't about to let them get away with it. Woke culture and the censorship of free speech, Gervais' defiant stand. But perhaps the most important theme running through Gervais' monologue was his staunch defense of free speech. In an era where woke culture has led to the deplatforming and silencing of countless comedians, actors, and public figures who fail to toe the ideological line, Gervais stands out as a rare voice of defiance. He has long been a critic of the increasing censorship that has taken hold in Hollywood, where celebrities are terrified to say anything that might offend the woke mob. But Gervais, he doesn't care. He says what he thinks, and he doesn't apologize for it. By making jokes about Jeffrey Epstein, Hollywood's hypocrisy on climate change, and even political correctness itself, Gervais was making a broader point. Comedy is supposed to challenge societal norms, not bow down to them. And in a world where free speech is increasingly under attack, his Golden Globes performance was a reminder that we must fight to protect it. The ultimate takedown, victimhood as virtue in woke Hollywood. But perhaps the most cutting critique Gervais made was of the way woke Hollywood has turned victimhood into a virtue. These are people who live in multi-million-dollar homes, who have access to the best healthcare, education, and opportunities. Whether it's gender inequality, racism, or climate change, woke celebrities love to paint themselves as warriors fighting on behalf of the oppressed. But the truth is, they are part of the very elite class that benefits from the systems they claim to be fighting against. Gervais wasn't just calling them hypocrites. He was exposing the deeper truth that their woke activism is nothing more than a shield, a way to deflect criticism and maintain their privileged status. The monologue that shook Hollywood to its core. Ricky Gervais' 2020 Golden Globes monologue wasn't just a moment of comedic brilliance, it was a cultural reckoning. In one fell swoop, Gervais exposed the hypocrisy, the performative activism, and the hollow virtue signaling of Hollywood's woke elite. He said what everyone else was thinking, but was too afraid to say. If you're tired of being lectured by out-of-touch celebrities, hit that like button, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe for more content that cuts through the noise. Leave a comment below with your thoughts on Gervais' legendary takedown of Hollywood. Did he go too far, or did he say what needed to be said? Let's keep this conversation going.